There is something quietly profound about the way we move through the world. When we walk, our feet touch the earth in a gentle rhythm, a cadence that mirrors the beating of our hearts. When we run, we propel ourselves forward with urgency, breaking free from gravity for brief moments between strides. Both movements are human, both are natural, and both have the power to transform our bodies in ways that continue to fascinate scientists and everyday people alike. Today, I want to explore a question that seems simple on its surface, but opens doorways into the intricate workings of human metabolism, energy systems, and the beautiful complexity of our physiology. Does walking burn more fat than running? The answer, as you might imagine, is not a simple yes or no. It is a journey through understanding. Let us begin where all good inquiries begin, with curiosity about what we can observe. If you were to walk at a comfortable pace for an hour, your body would consume energy. If you were to run for that same hour, your body would also consume energy, but considerably more of it. This much seems obvious to anyone who has tried both activities. Running leaves you breathless, sweating, heart pounding. Walking, while it can certainly be vigorous, generally feels more sustainable, more measured. But when we ask whether walking burns more fat than running, we are asking something more nuanced than simply which activity burns more calories overall. We are asking about the fuel our bodies choose to use during these different forms of movement. The human body is an extraordinary machine of adaptation. It does not run on a single fuel source, but rather maintains a sophisticated system of energy production that can shift and adjust based on the demands being placed upon it. Think of your body as having access to different fuel tanks. One tank contains carbohydrates, stored primarily as glycogen in your muscles and liver. Another tank contains fat, stored throughout your body in adipose tissue. There is even a small contribution from protein, though your body prefers to preserve this for building and repair rather than burning it for fuel. At any given moment, your body is burning some combination of these fuels, and the proportion depends on numerous factors, including how intensely you are exercising. When you walk at a leisurely to moderate pace, something fascinating happens at the cellular level. Your muscles require energy, but the demand is relatively modest. Oxygen can be delivered to your muscle cells efficiently through your cardiovascular system. Inside those cells, within tiny organelles called mitochondria, a process called aerobic metabolism takes place. This is the body's preferred method of energy production when oxygen is plentiful and time is not of the essence. Aerobic metabolism is remarkably efficient at burning fat. In fact, at lower intensities of exercise, fat becomes the dominant fuel source. Your body can leisurely unlock the energy stored in fat molecules through a process called beta oxidation, converting those long carbon chains into usable energy in the form of AP, the molecular currency of cellular energy. This is where the appeal of walking for fat burning comes from, and it is not merely wishful thinking or fitness mythology. At walking intensity, roughly 50 to 70% of your maximum heart rate, the percentage of calories coming from fat is indeed quite high. In some individuals, as much as 60 to 70% of the energy used during a moderate walk comes from fat oxidation. This is an elegant adaptation. Your body recognizes that the work is sustainable, that oxygen is available, and that fat, your most abundant energy reserve, can be tapped into without urgency. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes perfect sense. Our ancestors needed to move efficiently over long distances while conserving their more precious carbohydrate stores for moments of greater intensity, for the chase or the escape. But now let us consider running. When you increase your pace and begin to run, the demands on your body change dramatically. Your heart rate climbs. Your breathing becomes more labored. Your muscles are contracting more forcefully and more rapidly. The energy requirement per minute increases substantially. While aerobic metabolism continues, your body begins to rely more heavily on carbohydrates for fuel. This is because carbohydrates can be broken down more quickly than fat. When intensity rises, speed matters. Your body needs up rapidly, and the metabolic pathways that process carbohydrates, particularly the anaerobic glycolysis pathway, can deliver energy faster than the pathways that oxidize fat. At running intensities, perhaps 70 to 85% of your maximum heart rate, the percentage of energy derived from fat decreases. Now perhaps only 35 to 50% of your calories are coming from fat, with the remainder coming primarily from carbohydrates. On the surface, this might seem like running is inferior for fat burning. After all, walking uses a higher percentage of fat for fuel. But here is where we must think more carefully about the mathematics of metabolism and the full picture of energy expenditure. While walking may burn a higher percentage of calories from fat, running burns substantially more total calories in the same amount of time. Imagine walking for 30 minutes and burning 150 calories, with roughly 60% coming from fat. That gives you 90 calories from fat. Now imagine running for 30 minutes and burning 300 calories, with 40% coming from fat. That gives you 120 calories from fat. Even though the percentage is lower, the absolute amount of fat burned is higher because the total energy expenditure is so much greater. This is the crucial insight that transforms our understanding of the question. But we must go deeper still, because the story of fat burning does not end when your exercise session ends. There is a phenomenon that exercise physiologists refer to as excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, sometimes abbreviated as EPOC, though I prefer to think of it in more descriptive terms as the metabolic afterglow of exercise. After you finish exercising, your body does not immediately return to its resting metabolic state. Your breathing remains elevated for a time. Your heart rate gradually descends. Your body temperature needs to normalize. Muscle tissue needs to be repaired. Energy stores need to be replenished. All of these processes require energy. The intensity of your exercise influences the magnitude and duration of this metabolic afterglow. After a gentle walk, EPOC is minimal. Your body returns to baseline relatively quickly because the disturbance to homeostasis was modest. After a vigorous run, particularly one that pushes you into higher intensity zones, EPOC can be substantial. Your metabolism remains elevated for hours after you have finished, sometimes burning an additional 5 to 15% of the calories you expended during the exercise itself. And here is the beautiful detail. During this recovery period, the fuel being burned is predominantly fat. Your body uses this quieter time after intense exercise to tap into fat stores to fuel the repair and restoration processes. This means that running, despite burning a lower percentage of fat during the activity itself, may ultimately result in greater total fat oxidation when we account for both the exercise and the recovery period. The equation becomes more complex, more interesting, and more individual. It depends on how long you exercise, how intensely, how trained your body is, what you have eaten, and how your unique metabolism responds to different forms of stress. There is another layer to consider, one that unfolds over weeks and months rather than minutes and hours. When you engage in regular running, particularly if you include some higher intensity work, your body adapts in profound ways. Your mitochondria, those cellular powerhouses I mentioned earlier, actually multiply. You grow more of them, and the ones you have become more efficient. Your cardiovascular system strengthens. Your heart pumps more blood with each beat. Your muscles develop a denser network of capillaries to deliver oxygen. All of these adaptations enhance your ability to burn fat, not just during exercise, but throughout the day. Your resting metabolic rate can increase. Your body becomes better at mobilizing and oxidizing fat even when you are sitting quietly or sleeping. Walking, too, creates adaptations, though generally more modest ones if the intensity remains consistently low. However, walking has virtues that should not be dismissed. It is accessible to nearly everyone. It carries minimal risk of injury. It can be sustained for very long durations. Some people can walk for hours, accumulating substantial calorie expenditure, whereas they might only be able to run for 20 or 30 minutes before fatigue or discomfort sets in. For these individuals, the total energy expenditure from walking may actually exceed what they could achieve through running, simply because they can do more of it. There is also something to be said for consistency and sustainability. The best exercise for fat burning is not necessarily the one that maximizes fat oxidation in a single session. It is the one you will actually do repeatedly, over time, woven into the fabric of your life. If running leaves you injured, exhausted, or dreading your next workout, then it does not matter how theoretically superior it might be for fat burning. If walking brings you joy, clears your mind, gets you outdoors, and can be maintained 6 days a week for years, then its cumulative effect on your body composition and health may far exceed that of sporadic, unsustainable running. Let us also acknowledge the role of diet in this conversation, even though our focus is on movement. Fat loss, at its most fundamental level, is about energy balance. If you consume more energy than you expend, your body stores the excess, primarily as fat. If you expend more energy than you consume, your body must mobilize its energy reserves to make up the difference. Exercise, whether walking or running, contributes to the expenditure side of this equation. But it is entirely possible to out-eat even vigorous exercise. A single hour of running might burn 500 calories, but a large meal can easily contain twice that amount. This is not to diminish the value of exercise for fat loss. Exercise does far more than burn calories. It preserves lean muscle mass during weight loss, which is crucial because muscle tissue is metabolically active and contributes to your resting metabolic rate. Exercise improves insulin sensitivity, helping your body manage blood sugar more effectively and making it easier to access fat stores. Exercise affects hormones related to appetite and satiety. It reduces inflammation. It enhances mood, which can reduce stress eating. The benefits cascade in ways that extend far beyond the simple arithmetic of calories in and calories out. When we think about walking versus running for fat burning, we might also consider the concept of training zones. Exercise physiologists have long recognized that different intensities of exercise stress the body in different ways and produce different adaptations. Very low-intensity exercise, like a gentle stroll, primarily uses fat for fuel but does not provide much stimulus for cardiovascular adaptation or muscle development. Moderate-intensity exercise, like brisk walking or easy jogging, still uses a good proportion of fat for fuel while beginning to challenge the cardiovascular system. Higher-intensity exercise, like faster running or intervals, relies more on carbohydrates during the activity, but produces more powerful adaptations and a greater afterburn effect. There is wisdom in incorporating all of these zones into a well-rounded approach to movement. Perhaps some days you walk gently, enjoying the meditative quality of easy movement, allowing your body to hum along in that pleasant fat-burning zone where oxygen is plentiful and stress is low. Perhaps other days you run with more vigor, challenging your heart and lungs, creating that metabolic disturbance that will echo through the hours that follow. Perhaps occasionally you push hard, sprinting or climbing hills, creating intense demands that will force your body to adapt and grow stronger. This variety not only optimizes the different metabolic pathways, but also keeps exercise interesting and reduces the risk of overuse injuries that come from repetitive motion. I want to pause here and reflect on something deeper about the human relationship with exercise and body composition. We live in a culture that often reduces the body to something that needs to be optimized, perfected, or controlled. We talk about burning fat as if fat is an enemy, as if our adipose tissue is a moral failing rather than an essential part of human physiology. Fat serves important functions. It insulates us. It cushions our organs. It stores energy for times of need. It produces hormones that regulate numerous bodily processes. The question of whether walking or running burns more fat is a scientific one, but it sits within a cultural context that is often unhealthy in its obsession with thinness and its equation of worth with appearance. What I hope to convey is that movement, whether walking or running, is valuable far beyond its capacity to change the shape of your body. When you walk, you participate in one of the most fundamental human activities. Our ancestors walked across continents. Our bodies evolved to be efficient walkers, to cover distance, to explore. When you run, you tap into something primal and joyful. Children run not to burn fat, but because running feels like freedom, like play. These activities connect us to our bodies, to the natural world, to each other when we walk or run alongside others. They clear our minds and lift our spirits. They strengthen our bones and hearts. They help us sleep better and think more clearly. If we must choose between walking and running based solely on fat-burning efficiency, the answer tilts toward running for most people who are capable of doing it safely, primarily because of the higher total calorie expenditure and the metabolic after effect. But this answer comes with so many caveats and individual variations that it feels almost irresponsible to state it so baldly. The person recovering from an injury may find that walking is their only option, and it will serve them well. The person with joint problems may discover that running causes pain that walking does not. The person who is significantly overweight may find that the impact forces of running are too great, at least initially, making walking the safer and more sustainable choice. There is also the matter of fitness level. A person who is very fit may be able to run at a pace that burns 700 or 800 calories per hour. A person who is less fit may only be able to sustain a running pace that burns 400 calories per hour, and they may be able to walk briskly enough to burn 250 or 300 calories per hour. For them, the ratio is different. The gap between walking and running narrows. And if the walking can be sustained for longer because it is less exhausting, the total energy expenditure might even be comparable. Let me share something about the metabolism that often surprises people. Your body is constantly burning a mixture of fuels, even at complete rest. Right now, as you sit and listen, your body is oxidizing both carbohydrates and fat to produce the energy needed to keep your heart beating, your brain thinking, your lungs breathing, your cells maintaining their internal environment. The ratio of carbohydrate to fat being burned at rest is influenced by what you have eaten recently, how long it has been since you ate, your hormonal state, your stress level, and your level of training. In a typical person at rest, fat usually provides the majority of energy, perhaps 60 to 70%. When you begin to move, this ratio shifts, but it does not flip a switch from one fuel to another. It is more like turning a dial. As intensity increases, the dial gradually shifts toward greater reliance on carbohydrates. But there is never a moment when you are burning only carbohydrates or only fat. Both fuels are always contributing, just in changing proportions. This is one of the elegant features of metabolism. Your body maintains flexibility, hedges its bets, keeps multiple pathways active and ready to adjust based on the demands of the moment. There is a concept called the crossover point, a theoretical intensity at which your body shifts from primarily burning fat to primarily burning carbohydrates. For an average person, this crossover might occur around 60 to 65% of maximum aerobic capacity. Below this point, fat is the dominant fuel. Above it, carbohydrates take over. But this crossover point is not fixed. It can be trained. Endurance athletes who engage in consistent aerobic training gradually shift their crossover point higher. They become better at burning fat even at moderately high intensities. Their bodies adapt to spare carbohydrate stores, to delay fatigue, to sustain effort for longer periods. This is one of the central adaptations of endurance training. Walking typically keeps most people well below their crossover point, comfortably in the fat-burning zone. Running often pushes them through and beyond that crossover point into the range where carbohydrates dominate. But a well-trained runner might be able to run at a pace that would feel hard to an untrained person, while still remaining in a predominantly fat-burning state. This illustrates how individual the answer to our question truly is. The experienced runner and the sedentary person beginning an exercise program are working with different physiologies, different capabilities, different crossover points. I want to touch on the role of hormones because they are silent orchestrators of metabolism. When you exercise, particularly at higher intensities, your body releases various hormones that influence fat metabolism. Epinephrine and norepinephrine, the stress hormones, mobilize fat from adipose tissue, breaking down triglycerides into fatty acids that can be burned for fuel. Growth hormone, released in response to exercise, particularly intense exercise, also promotes fat oxidation and helps preserve muscle mass. Cortisol, another stress hormone, can have complex effects depending on its levels and timing, sometimes promoting fat mobilization, but also, in chronic excess, potentially promoting fat storage, particularly around the abdomen. The hormonal response to exercise is generally more pronounced with higher intensity activities like running compared to gentle walking. This hormonal cascade is part of why running and more vigorous exercise can be particularly effective for body composition changes. But it is also a reminder that exercise is not just a mechanical process of burning calories. It is a signaling event, a form of communication between your muscles, your fat tissue, your endocrine glands, and your brain. The metabolic effects ripple outward from the activity itself, influencing appetite, energy levels, sleep quality, and even gene expression. There is something humbling about studying metabolism. The more you learn, the more you realize how much is still not fully understood. Why do some people lose fat easily with exercise while others seem resistant to change? Why do individuals respond so differently to the same exercise program? Genetics certainly plays a role. The gut microbiome may contribute. Sleep quality matters. Stress levels are relevant. Previous dieting history can influence metabolic rate. The complex interplay of all these factors means that rigid prescriptions are often inadequate. What works beautifully for one person may be less effective for another. This brings me back to the importance of self-knowledge and experimentation. Rather than asking whether walking or running is universally better for fat burning, perhaps the more valuable question is, what form of movement works best for me given my body, my preferences, my constraints, my goals? The answer requires paying attention to your own responses. How does your body feel during and after different types of exercise? What can you sustain over time? What injuries or limitations do you need to work around? What brings you enough enjoyment or satisfaction that you will continue doing it? For some people, the answer will be a combination. Perhaps walking is the foundation, the daily habit, the reliable constant. Perhaps running is sprinkled in a few times per week for its intensity and its different training stimulus. Perhaps other forms of movement, cycling or swimming or dancing, have a place as well. The human body thrives on variety and adapts to consistent challenge. There is no single perfect formula, no optimal protocol that applies to everyone universally. I also want to acknowledge the limitations of focusing too narrowly on fat burning as the metric of success. Health is not reducible to body fat percentage. A person can be metabolically healthy at a variety of body compositions. The health benefits of regular physical activity accrue whether or not substantial fat loss occurs. Your cardiovascular system strengthens. Your bones maintain density. Your muscles preserve their mass and function. Your brain benefits from increased blood flow and the release of neurotrophic factors that support cognitive function. Your immune system functions more effectively. Your mood improves. These benefits are real and valuable, independent of changes in body composition. Moreover, the pursuit of fat loss through exercise can become counterproductive if it leads to overtraining, injury, or disordered relationships with food and body. Exercise should ideally be something that enhances your life, not something that dominates it or causes anxiety. There is a balance to be found between having goals and holding them lightly, between striving for improvement and accepting yourself as you are. Let me return once more to the science, because there are a few more details worth exploring. When we talk about burning fat, we are typically referring to the fat stored in adipose tissue throughout the body. But fat is also stored within muscle cells in tiny droplets called intramyocellular lipids. During exercise, particularly prolonged moderate-intensity exercise, muscles can tap into these local fat stores in addition to mobilizing fat from adipose tissue. Trained endurance athletes actually have higher levels of these intramuscular fat stores because their muscles have adapted to use fat efficiently. This is another example of how training changes the body at a cellular level. The process of mobilizing fat from adipose tissue and transporting it to working muscles is complex. Fat cells must break down stored triglycerides into fatty acids and glycerol. These fatty acids then bind to proteins in the blood for transport. They enter muscle cells and are shuttled into mitochondria for oxidation. Each of these steps can be influenced by training status, hormonal environment, and nutritional state. Exercise training enhances the efficiency of this entire process, making the body better at accessing and burning fat. There is also emerging research on the role of brown adipose tissue, a special type of fat that rather than storing energy, actually burns energy to produce heat. Brown fat is more abundant in infants but persists in adults in smaller amounts, primarily around the neck and upper back. Cold exposure and possibly certain types of exercise can activate brown fat. While this is not directly related to the walking versus running question, it reminds us that our understanding of fat metabolism continues to evolve. There are likely aspects of how the body burns and stores fat that remain to be discovered. As I reflect on this question of walking versus running, I am struck by how a seemingly simple inquiry opens into such depth. We began with a practical question about exercise choice and found ourselves exploring mitochondrial function, hormonal regulation, energy systems, evolutionary adaptation, and the philosophy of health. This is the nature of genuine inquiry. When we ask good questions and pursue them with curiosity rather than the mere desire for a quick answer, we are led into richer understanding. What have we learned? We have learned that walking burns a higher percentage of calories from fat during the activity, but that running typically burns more total fat because of higher overall energy expenditure and continued elevation of metabolism after exercise. We have learned that both forms of movement have value and that the best choice depends on individual circumstances. We have learned that the body is adaptable, that training changes metabolism in profound ways, and that consistency matters more than perfection. We have learned that fat burning is just one aspect of health and that movement offers countless benefits beyond body composition changes. Perhaps most importantly, we have learned to think more carefully about health questions, to resist the urge to oversimplify, to appreciate nuance and individual variation. The human body is not a simple machine with predictable inputs and outputs. It is a living system, responsive and adaptive, influenced by genetics, environment, experience, and countless feedback loops. Our relationship with exercise and health is not purely mechanical, but also emotional, social, and deeply personal. If you take nothing else from this exploration, I hope you take this. Move your body in ways that feel sustainable and meaningful to you. Whether you walk, run, or do both, do it with attention and gratitude for what your body can do. Notice how movement makes you feel. Pay attention to the way your breath deepens, the way your heart responds, the way your mind clears or your mood lifts. Trust that your body knows how to adapt, how to grow stronger, how to use the fuel it has available in service of the movement you ask of it. I would like to take a moment to consider how our modern understanding of exercise and metabolism contrasts with historical and cultural perspectives on movement. For most of human history, people did not exercise in the way we think of it today. They moved because life demanded it. They walked to find food, to travel between locations, to tend crops, to gather water. They ran when hunting or fleeing danger. Movement was woven into survival, not separated out as a distinct activity to be scheduled and optimized. There was no distinction between exercise and life itself. In our contemporary world, many of us have engineered movement out of daily life. We drive instead of walk. We take elevators instead of stairs. We sit at desks for hours at a time. Our bodies, designed for regular movement throughout the day, now experience long periods of stillness punctuated by occasional planned exercise sessions. This is a profound shift in the human experience, and it has consequences for our health and metabolism. The sedentary person who exercises vigorously for an hour and then sits for the remaining 15 waking hours is living in a pattern that is historically unprecedented. Research increasingly suggests that while that hour of exercise is valuable, it cannot fully compensate for prolonged sitting throughout the day. This is where the humble act of walking gains additional significance. Walking can be distributed throughout the day in ways that running typically cannot. You can take a walking break every hour. You can walk to accomplish errands. You can have walking meetings. You can walk while talking on the phone. This distributed movement may have metabolic benefits that extend beyond the simple calculation of calories burned. Each time you stand and move, you interrupt the metabolic slowdown that accompanies prolonged sitting. You activate muscles. You increase blood flow. You give your body little pulses of activity that help maintain metabolic health. There is fascinating research on something called non-exercise activity thermogenesis, often abbreviated as NEAT. This refers to all the energy we expend through movement that is not deliberate exercise. Fidgeting, standing, walking around your home, taking the stairs, doing household chores, all of these seemingly trivial movements add up. In some individuals, NEAT can account for several hundred calories per day. People who naturally move more throughout the day, even in small ways, tend to have an easier time maintaining a healthy body weight. This suggests that metabolic health is not just about that dedicated exercise session, but about cultivating a lifestyle that includes regular, varied movement. When we view walking and running through this broader lens, walking gains additional appeal because it is so easily integrated into daily life. It does not require special equipment or clothing. It does not leave you too sweaty or exhausted to continue with your day. It is social and contemplative in ways that running often is not. You can walk with friends and maintain a conversation. You can walk and observe your surroundings with attention. Walking has been called a form of moving meditation, and many people find that their best thinking happens while walking. The philosopher Nietzsche famously said that all truly great thoughts are conceived while walking. And while this may be an overstatement, there is something about the rhythm of walking that seems to facilitate mental clarity. Running, too, can produce altered states of consciousness. The runner's high, that feeling of euphoria that sometimes emerges during sustained aerobic activity, results from the release of endorphins and endocannabinoids in the brain. These neurochemicals have mood-lifting and pain-reducing effects. For some people, running becomes a form of therapy, a way to manage stress and anxiety, to process emotions, to feel empowered and capable. The psychological benefits of running can be as significant as the physical ones, and these benefits matter when we are thinking about sustainability and adherence to an exercise routine. Let us also consider the biomechanics of these two movements and what they reveal about human physiology. Walking is characterized by what is called an inverted pendulum mechanism. During walking, one foot is always in contact with the ground. Your center of mass rises and falls with each step, and this up and down movement is accompanied by a forward arc as your body pivots over the planted foot. This mechanism is remarkably energy efficient. The kinetic and potential energy are exchanged during the gait cycle, reducing the overall metabolic cost of moving forward. Running, in contrast, involves a flight phase where both feet are off the ground simultaneously. You are essentially leaping from one foot to the other. This requires more muscular force to propel yourself upward and forward against gravity. The impact forces when you land are also much greater during running, sometimes 2 to 3 times your body weight with each foot strike, compared to about 1 to 1.5 times body weight during walking. These higher forces are part of why running carries a greater injury risk, particularly for individuals who are new to the activity or who increase their mileage too quickly. But those same forces, when applied appropriately, stimulate bone remodeling and strengthen the musculoskeletal system. The efficiency of movement also varies with speed in interesting ways. Walking is most efficient at moderate speeds, around 3 to 4 miles per hour for most adults. When you walk very slowly, efficiency decreases because you are spending more time supporting your body weight with each step. When you try to walk very quickly, efficiency also decreases because the inverted pendulum mechanism breaks down and you have to work harder to maintain speed without breaking into a run. Running becomes more efficient than walking at speeds above about 5 miles per hour. There is a natural transition point where the body prefers to shift from walking to running because it becomes the more economical gait. This transition speed varies by individual based on leg length, muscle strength, and other factors, but it represents a fundamental shift in the mechanical strategy the body uses to move forward. All of this biomechanical detail matters for our question, because it influences how much energy is required to travel a given distance at different speeds. If you walk a mile, you might burn 70 to 100 calories depending on your weight and pace. If you run a mile, you might burn 100 to 130 calories. The difference is not as dramatic as many people assume because much of the energy cost of moving forward is determined by the work required to transport your body mass over that distance. Speed adds some additional cost, but distance remains the primary driver of total energy expenditure. This is why some exercise scientists say that for weight management, the distance you cover matters more than whether you walk or run that distance. Of course, running allows you to cover more distance in less time, which brings us back to the practical advantages of higher intensity exercise. I want to return to the idea of metabolic flexibility, which is an increasingly important concept in exercise physiology and metabolic health. Metabolic flexibility refers to your body's ability to efficiently switch between burning carbohydrates and burning fat based on their availability and the demands being placed on the body. A metabolically flexible person can easily transition from predominantly fat oxidation during low-intensity activity or fasting to predominantly carbohydrate oxidation during high-intensity exercise or after a meal. Their body adapts fluidly to changing conditions. Metabolic inflexibility, in contrast, is associated with insulin resistance, obesity, and metabolic syndrome. When the body loses its ability to efficiently switch between fuel sources, problems arise. Cells may become less responsive to insulin, making it difficult to handle carbohydrates effectively. Fat oxidation may be impaired, leading to fat accumulation in tissues where it does not belong, such as the liver and muscle. Both walking and running, particularly when done regularly, can help improve metabolic flexibility. They train the body to be adaptable, to efficiently use the fuel that is available, to respond appropriately to different metabolic demands. One of the beautiful aspects of regular aerobic exercise, whether walking or running, is that it enhances insulin sensitivity. When your muscles contract during exercise, they take up glucose from the bloodstream through mechanisms that do not even require insulin. This gives the pancreas a break from having to produce insulin and gives the cells a chance to restore their sensitivity to insulin signaling. The effects last for hours after the exercise session ends, and with regular training, they compound into long-term improvements in glucose metabolism. This is one reason why exercise is such a powerful tool for preventing and managing type 2 diabetes. The metabolic benefits extend far beyond fat burning to encompass the fundamental ways your body processes and stores energy. As we near the end of this exploration, I want to acknowledge something about the nature of scientific knowledge itself. Everything I have shared with you today represents our current best understanding based on research conducted over many decades. But science is always evolving. New technologies allow us to peer more deeply into cellular processes. New studies challenge old assumptions. What we think we know today may be refined or even revised tomorrow. This is not a weakness of science, but a strength. It is a process of continuous learning, of updating our models based on new evidence, of holding our conclusions provisionally while remaining open to correction. In the specific case of exercise and fat metabolism, there is still much we do not fully understand. Why do some people lose fat readily with exercise, while others experience minimal changes in body composition despite consistent training? How do genetic variations influence the metabolic response to different types of exercise? What is the optimal balance of different exercise intensities for metabolic health? How do factors like sleep, stress, and nutrition interact with exercise to influence fat metabolism? These are active areas of research, and the answers are still emerging. What I can tell you with confidence is that both walking and running are valuable forms of movement that contribute to health in numerous ways. Neither is universally superior to the other. The question of which burns more fat has an answer that depends on how we frame it. Running typically burns more fat per unit of time because it burns more total calories per unit of time. Walking burns a higher percentage of its calories from fat, making it efficient for fat oxidation during the activity itself. Both can be part of a healthy, active lifestyle. Both create adaptations that enhance your body's ability to burn fat, not just during exercise, but throughout the day. The question of whether walking burns more fat than running is ultimately less important than the question of how you can build a sustainable relationship with movement that supports your health and well-being throughout your life. The best exercise is the one you will do, the one that fits into your life, the one that makes you feel more alive rather than depleted, more connected to your body rather than at war with it. Walk when walking serves you. Run when running serves you. Rest when rest serves you. And know that in attending to your body with care and curiosity, you are engaging in a practice of profound self-respect. Thank you for joining me in this exploration. May your movement bring you health, joy, and a deeper appreciation for the remarkable body you inhabit.